Good morning, friends. Welcome to the Grass Woodworker. Today is Wednesday, so we're going to talk about shop tips and tricks and essential tools and how to use them and things of this nature. I hope you enjoy the show. Even the most basic workshop will have an assortment of clamps, like the examples I saw here. Even vice grips are truly clamps, and they can help you hold together small pieces. And sometimes we have specialized clamps like this Craig clamp that help you hold pieces together you're going to connect using Craig screws. But the most common clamps, of course, are this type, and C clamps, which I do not have because I do not use. I like Irwin clamps the most. I've used them for many years without any problems. And I have several types. As you can see, we have this normal type, which is just a compression clamp, and the side of a good clamp is that you can easily release it without a lot of kickback, that the points of contact here have a little bit of play, as this clamp does. But probably the most common clamp, and this is a very inexpensive, is this style of clamp, which is very similar with the Irwin clamp. So, even though very rarely mentioned, one of the tools you must have in any wood shop or in any shop in general is a good collection of clamps. You can never have too many of them. So using clamps is straightforward. This type of clamps are very inexpensive, but do a very good job in holding pieces together. These are, of course, very useful for glue-ups, and as you can see, those pieces of wood are held very securely together and very fast. The disadvantage of this type of clamp is that it has a fairly limited width. In other words, at the most this clamp will hold 3 boards. It cannot do much more than that, but it is very positive. It does a very good job, especially when you want to glue up something using this clamp. A grip is also a clamp. It has all the characteristics. It has a quick release, and then whatever you put there in the middle, it's going to clamp in a very positive way. It is more often used, however, in metallurgy than woodworking, because it clamps very hard and it will leave marks on your piece. These plastic pads are essential because they do not leave marks on your piece. This is an inexpensive Harbor Freight clamp. It does have a nice release. What I like about this release is that it does not jump, unlike some clamps. So when you are clamped on your piece here, let's do it again. Let's say we were gluing these pieces. Of course, we're not gluing them now, but let's say we were. This clamp is doing a great job in doing that, and if I'm ready to release it, simply by pressing this button I release it without any kickback. Now let's go to this clamp. Similar concept as this, but by Irwin. What I like about this clamp is that you don't have to hold it, unlike this one that is simply spring loaded. When you're ready to release, again you have a release and the clamp opens. It does essentially the same amount of work. This is a little smaller, but still it can catch 2 pieces of wood, and it will do a great job if you were to glue them together. And again, when you're done, it releases. This is a specialty clamp, and it is made by Greg, and what it's designed to do is hold 2 pieces together that you're trying to connect with Craig screws. So if you have one there, you put it in one of the holes if you have more than 2 holes, and then this clamp will allow you to align it without having the screw in therefore giving you a better opportunity to make a great connection. Again, this is a specialty clamp and not necessary for every application. By far my favorite clamp is this Irwin clamp. It has a very nice release, which is here. It's very smooth. It works very much like the cheaper clamp. It has an awesome grip. And it will hold the pieces together until you're glue up, or sometimes until you do a carving or anything like that. An amazing feature of these clamps is that they do more than clamping. If you look here at the top, you're going to see that there is a release that takes the head off, and then you can put the head back on backwards and you didn't do anything. You can put the head this way, and now you have an awesome spreader. So your clamp doesn't always only act as a clamp, but also as a spreader. This has a lot of force. I doubt that I could keep it. Well, I definitely cannot keep it because my hands are not big enough. But it has an amazing amount of force that can keep two pieces apart. For example, if you wanted to insert something into a date or something, you can use the clamp to slightly open the two sides and make your insertion easier without the need to hit the wood with a hammer, which might have the result of damaging the wood. And when you're done with that, you simply remove it, you put it back, and you lock it, and you're back to a normal clamp. Now, this feature also exists in the Harbor Freight clamps. In the Harbor Freight is a little different mechanism. You just have to release this mechanism here to take the clamp apart. And I'm not sure why it's not releasing the clamp right now, but it isn't. I guess that's the difference between an inexpensive and an expensive clamp. But now you have the same situation here, in which you see why I prefer the Irwin. You don't have to worry about this, but once you do this, it works essentially the same way. Now your clamp has become a spreader. Clamps are very versatile tools that you can always utilize in your shop, and I think very often they're underutilized and undervalued. Again, you can never have too many clamps. Always buy a clamp that has a quick release, that allows the part that moves to move freely. I'm not a big fan of these clamps, but they are cheap and they do the work fine. It's just that when you apply the pressure, you are depending on this screw versus a mechanism that is ratcheting. You can find these clamps fairly inexpensive, and therefore they can be a good starter clamp. This is a very well made clamp, and it is a clear characteristic of an older type clamp. But this specific one does not reverse, so it is not a spreader. The Harbor Freight clamp is a spreader, as you can see here, and it will spread all the way to whatever the size of the clamp is. So as you can see, this is a significant amount of spreading, and then it will go back. It is suggested that you have different sizes of clamps, and by that I mean the length of this bar, and also different sizes of this type of clamps, in order to have a full complement that will allow you to be ready for any circumstance that might arise. Okay friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Garage Woodworker. If you did, smash the like button. If you didn't, the other button works as well. And I hope to see you soon in the channel.